based on a very popular franchise that's been going strong since 1991, with anticipation ever since it was first announced, and one that was set to change the video game to film adaptation for the better. Sonic the Hedgehog has had a very interesting history since production began. When test footage was revealed at the Comic-Con experience in Brazil on December 9th, 2018, it was not well received, being compared unfavourably to another live-action video game movie, Pokemon Detective Pikachu, which also had its trailer release at that same year. Then in April 2019, the official trailer was released and was critically lambasted, mostly for Sonic's design and the use of the song Gangsta's Paradise, gaining hundreds of thousands of dislikes on YouTube, drastically outnumbering its likes. It was so bad that the developers decided to delay the film to 2020 so that they could redesign Sonic, which spawned another trailer in November 2019 to a much better response, and the redesign in general looks a lot better. But back to the present day, this movie manages to do a modern day video game film adaptation correctly. Even being in slight development hell, it persevered and eventually spawned a series. So how did this Sonic film adaptation go out of its way to break the video game film curse? What changes did it make for the greater good? And why did it take this long to master itself into perfection? In today's movie review, I'll be talking about the live-action 2020 adaptation, Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm going to talk about why it speeds up, and also the slight issues that slow it down a bare minimum. First things first, this movie stays very faithful to its source material, with genuine passion that shows the viewers the time that was placed into finally making a Sonic film adaptation. Although the grasp of the source material isn't perfect by any means, it still has many references that make it feel like a video game film set in its universe. They center the main character a lot, giving them the focus rather than sidelining them as the main human character. There are so many Easter eggs to point out here, including the use of Green Hill Zone, ring portals that are a reference to the giant rings in the main series that take you to the special stages, Dr. Robotnik being referred to as Eggman plenty of times, and at the end of the film, Robotnik is sent to the Mushroom Hill Zone, which is a callback to Sonic and Knuckles, as well as how it sets up a sequel in the bargain. Sonic's design is very realistic as well, with the gloves, shoes, skin, and his powers that make him feel ripped out of the games. Something else to highlight here are the performances, specifically the leads that steal plenty of spotlight. Of course, you can't go wrong with Jim Carrey. He absolutely steals the show, generating his 90s charisma into Robotnik, being still very hilarious and a highlight all the same. I didn't know what to feel about it at the time, but it's definitely a sign of Carrey doing his own thing, and that's more than okay, as the film gives you a detail of how great an actor he is. Ben Schwartz was also a really solid choice to play Sonic in these movies, as he brings his own charisma into the role. He's like a combination of previous actors, with the charm, humour and personality of Jason Griffin's portrayal, and the grounded, serious and emotionally touching story of Roger Craig Smith's portrayal. It captures his patient teenager act successfully, with a sense of loneliness and responsibility into his character. The last one I should bring up is James Marsden as Tom Wachowski, bringing humanity and realism to his character, serving as a great straight man who helps Sonic and goes through a strong friendship as the story goes on. The casting choices were pretty spot on here. What I also really appreciate in this movie is the action sequences. There's actually plenty to be seen here, and it's very Sonic-like with how the character faces against Robotnik's contraptions and his spin-dashing antics that give him his overall power. Some good slow motion effects feel great to see, with the best ones being in the boss sequence, as well as the final sequence, and how Sonic himself is like breaking the fourth wall here, with how the entire film goes into slow motion, and Sonic is the only one acting normal, using this to his advantage in the action scenes. It goes to show how a speedster perceives the world. In fact, even with these, it still feels very complete. There are plenty of action films these days that feel incomplete, but this one does. It's no surprise that there's genuine passion put into this to making a Sonic movie. All is visually creative with the developers having fun, and they also give the vibe of beating Eggman in the games during the climax. Looks like it really took 9 million steps today. To make the movie feel more realistic as a live action video game adaptation, the visuals play a role in both style and substance. The computer animation for Sonic really stands out here, as well as the ones set in Green Hill, the running sequences, and the visual effects mixed with CGI capture for Robotnik's robots and rockets. It's a major upgrade in comparison to the trailer released in April 2019, as this movie is basically that, but redone. Following the heavy criticism of that trailer, the developers delayed the movie to not only redesign Sonic to replace the crappy lookalike in all scenes, but also make the visual effects look very complete, giving them a fresh vibe to them. It would have been a disaster if the April 2019 version had just been released without being delayed to have more time taken into consideration to make the final product. We'd be looking at another video game dud at the box office, similar to Super Mario Bros. The cinematography is pretty epic as well. Lastly, something that this movie does that many video game adaptations couldn't do before is that it's very funny. Most of the humour in those movies came off as cheesy, corny, silly, and also just awful in general, but this one is actually hilarious. There's some very self-aware humour, like the scenes with Sonic playing against himself in a baseball because he's lonely and hasn't had any friends except himself, and he's like the fastest living thing in his world, so it makes sense. His obsession with chili dogs is also a highlight, which again stays faithful to the games in large capacity, and the entire sequence with Robotnik dancing, only to get disturbed by ancient stone. There are still terrible bits of humour used here and then, like toilet humour and Sonic flossing from Fortnite, both being strictly made for the kids. Still, it at least has some memorable quotes like,
meow?
And also,
give me a big fat break!
While the humour plays it safe, it's Jim carried hard, thanks to an icon that birthed the comedic timings in the 90s. Also, the entire scene with Sonic and Tom at the pub. Nuff said. My only real negative about this movie is the generic human plot. While the main characters like Sonic, Tom, and Robotnik are all absolutely enjoyable, the secondary characters are really weak here. Think of other cartoon characters like in this world in those movies, and you'll immediately get the idea. It goes too much on the whole buddy road trip formula, which is really ironic because this is the second time Marston has driven a car with some other animal in his passenger seat, this time being Sonic. Who's next? Rocket Raccoon and him as Cyclops in the next Avengers movies? Oh yeah, watch out! All of the human drama feels like it's added just to fill and to only help move the story along when the main characters are not doing much on screen. They just do a few things and then get sidelined for the rest of the movie. It's a very standard formula that's been seen in many movies, but at least this one is entertaining and not uncanny, both of which couldn't have been had this movie not have been delayed. Sonic the Hedgehog is a very welcome film adaptation for everyone's favourite blue blur. It stays very faithful to its source material with a few changes here and there to make it feel entertaining to watch. Some very great performances are a highlight to many, specifically Jim Carrey. It's action-packed with plenty of spectacle for hardcore fans. It's also visually impressive with great set pieces and designs for its setting, and well-timed humour that's very smart and appealing for all ages. The secondary characters are pretty bland though, and they do get sidelined in favour for its main stars and leads. Although, I still really enjoyed this movie. As a massive fan of Sonic himself with the games, TV shows, comic books and many more magna throughout the whole series, I was pretty satisfied here. It was made with genuine passion for fans, it doesn't pander or insult the character or the fanbase that grew up with the games, and it's clearly evident that the team behind it all wants to make more movies like this with its critical and commercial successes. It was already evident that we'd get more sequels, which would take everything great about this movie and make it even better. Sonic the Hedgehog will delight audiences of all ages and fans of the franchise who brought the adaptation into existence with time, patience and expectations, and it's generally the start of video game adaptations being rebirthed into modern day cinema following the critical and commercial disaster of the other game adaptations in the 90s. Despite drifting away from some of its source material, Sonic the Hedgehog is fittingly fast-paced, gorgeously satisfying, and frequently funny in large part thanks to the classical charisma of Jim Carrey. My final score for this adaptation is a 9 out of 10 and a grade A. Definitely lived up to my expectations, even if it was a big letdown from its announcement, but it slowly started to redeem itself as time went on. I was pretty satisfied by how well this movie was made with its passion and stuff. I was expecting way worse with its lack of originality, but then I watched it and expected it to be as good as gold as fun. Hopefully we get more movies like this in the inevitable future. But with that being said, leave a like on this video if you guys did enjoy my review on Sonic the Hedgehog, and also remember to subscribe if you're new and hit that bell icon to see more content on my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all later. Take care of yourselves.